Phil Parker is one of the best defensive back coaches in the country, but that group struggled a year ago. Here's what Iowa needs to bounce back in 2025.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Your team every day. We got you covered. I've been covering the Iowa Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio across the great state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. You can hear me each weekday from noon to 2 talking the world of sports on our stations. 106.3 KXNO in Des Moines, along with stations in Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, the Quad Cities, and Sioux City every day with Ken Miller. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Iowa baseball making their way to the capital city this weekend. They'll get a chance against a top 10 RPI team. Oregon State comes to town, and a win of this series will go a long way solidifying themselves as an NCAA tournament team. We'll talk about that, talk about the matchup, and a special event that's going to be happening in Des Moines leading into the first game on Friday night. We'll also be joined by David Eickholt from 24/7 Sports, HawkeyeInsider.com. Talk with David about what he saw at Carver-Hawkeye Arena on Sunday, the return of Caitlin Clark. We'll talk some women's basketball recruiting, men's basketball recruiting, including, is there another name or two to keep your eye on? Maybe a new name that is out there in the portal for Iowa men's basketball, and a thought on the Iowa football offense. But we begin today's conversation with a look at the defensive backs. We've been going through the position groups here over the last couple of days and taking a peek at what we know now coming out of spring football with each of these groups. Today, it is Phil Parker's specialty, and that is the defensive backfield. Of course, before he became the defensive coordinator, taking over for Norm Parker, he was the defensive back coach, and he has still maintained that part of his job duties. Along with being the coordinator, he is working with those defensive backs. We've talked about the stories of the guys that have come out of nowhere, the guys that have built themselves up, the guys that started struggling early in their career and turned themselves into NFL players. And you look at this group here and now, it's going to be first a different look a couple of different ways. You start with Xavier Nwankpa. And I know Xavier Nwankpa coming in, I called a bunch of his games in high school, and watching him play, his ability to close on a defender was unlike anything I'd ever seen at the high school level. He's been a disappointment. It's fair to say, through the first 3 years when you get that caliber of player. Recruiting services had him as a top 50 national player. Iowa doesn't get guys like that very often. And when you get a guy of that caliber, you become frustrated. Nwankpa's got the size, 6'2", 215. But most importantly, the move over to free safety, I think, is going to set his skill set a whole lot better than where he was before. That ability in the Iowa defense and what they do, I think free safety is going to be the right spot for him. Remember, he was benched a year ago. Now, after the big touchdown he gave up against Iowa State, he was on the bench, and he was not a consistent starter time in and time out a year ago. Getting him back there is going to go a long way. Now, next up, they still got to figure out what they're doing between Koen Entringer and Zach Lutmer. They played both of those guys, one at strong safety, the other at the cash position. They moved him back and forth. How that's going to look out, how that's going to play, what you have to be excited about is, boy, both those guys absolutely look the part. Of course, Entringer, remembered for what he did a couple of years ago in the Big Ten championship game, chasing down the punt returner from Michigan. But this guy's a player and has been banged up a little bit in his career. Of course, had that injury dating back to that game, and then bounced back and played a lot earlier than anybody anticipated coming up last season. A healthy Koen Entringer, this could be a breakout candidate in that defensive backfield. And Zach Lutmer, when that kid showed up on campus from Central Lyon, George Little Rock, I mean, people were talking about him right away. So both those guys are going to be starters, one at the other safety spot opposite Nwankpa, and the other one likely at the cash position. Then we go to the defensive backfield to the cornerback spot. TJ Hall, it happened. It clicked. We've been waiting, and it sounds like everything is finally kind of clicking for him, and he's going to be your number one quarterback. They go out and they bring in Shahid Barros from South Dakota, a guy that's going to help with depth, a guy that I think they're excited about, that what he's going to be able to do and what he is going to be able to translate on the field. A guy that is kind of plug and play, right? Wasn't a guy that was all Missouri Valley or anything like that. Just a good, solid player. And importantly, adding some depth to that position. We've seen Deshaun Lee now for the last couple of seasons. And though it's been inconsistent, it's been a little bit frustrating, I think, at times also for him. It just goes with the territory, right? When you look at and when you go through, there's going to be growing pains at the quarterback spot. There's going to be different things that you see, and that's been Deshaun Lee. Hey, maybe bringing in Barrows, maybe that's exactly what he needs. Somebody to push him a little bit more. They're still young guys. Jalen Watson, speaking of those young guys, played last year as a freshman. Out there a whole lot more than we thought. Used his freshman season, did not redshirt last year. They're going to need him to continue to ascend. Another guy that did redshirt last year, got in the field a little bit, Rashad Godfrey. I think they're happy about his development and the way that he has gone. And a few other names here in the defensive backfield. Keep an eye on Tegan Davis. This is a kid that got hurt in high school his senior year, coming back off that injury to see if there's anything that can still pop from him. Speaking of injuries, Alex Moda, they've been all over the place. He has been incredibly injured, started as a wide receiver. As an athlete, this is a high-level athlete. He's really, really talented on that front. We'll see where he is coming off of those injuries. Two other names to throw out there. Kale Kolarek, another kid that I saw a bunch here in Central Iowa, called a couple of his football games, and a kid that popped out when he is playing at the high school level. Looks to be maybe that next walk-on safety legacy that could be taking over here for his senior year next season after the departure, as they'll have a couple of guys moving on. Keep an eye on him. He definitely was a guy talked about a ton. And then the freshman from CJ Bell, Alante Dean, either of those guys. We know Phil Parker. He is not scared of playing guys early in their career. We've seen that a ton throughout his tenure. And one other name, Ty Hunkins, the transfer that's coming in from Purdue. That is the one that you're looking at. So that's what we have at the defensive backfield. It was inconsistent a year ago. The long touchdowns that were given up a season ago. And I think having Nwankpa, Entringer, Lutmer, get those defined roles, getting all those guys playing at their best position for the team, I think that's going to go a long way to clean it up. And if TJ Hall does make that ascension, and Lee and Barrows fighting on that other corner spot, and then you got the young guys out there, I think this is in a good spot. Ultimately, though, it comes down to Phil Parker. And don't we always believe in Phil Parker? If you don't, you definitely should. That big step back that they took a year ago, look at the numbers. That definitely was not as big of a step back as maybe you would anticipate. David Eickholt on the Hawkeye Beat 24/7, sportshawkeyeinsider.com. A lot of basketball, some football to talk about with David Eickholt, including what he wants to see out of the Hawkeye offense coming up this season. We'll talk with David next. Locked On Hawkeyes. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. I'm a small business owner. I know how those things can absolutely add up, the amount of time and the actual amount of money that you're spending to find a new partner. It is difficult. Posting a job at Upwork is free and it's simple. And within a day, multiple qualified candidates are there for you to choose from. And instead of hiring somebody full-time, Upwork finds affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. That's exactly what I'm always looking for. Visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. Post your job for free at Upwork.com, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Upwork.com.
Well, Jonas, we'll talk some Hawks with David Eickholt. Look forward to catching up with him on a number of topics. And we'll start with the money that the Big Ten schools received here, are in the process of receiving. Let's get to him. HawkeyeInsider.com. David joins us. David, Trent, Ken, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Doing good, man. Good to be talking to you. Beautiful day out. Just finally taking a deep breath, man. It feels like the craziness is finally slowing down, and not gonna lie to you, I'm pretty happy about it.
I bet you are. But a couple of topics we'll get to. I guess we should start by just going back to Sunday. Obviously, you were in the building for the Indiana Fever exhibition game, preseason game against the Brazil national team. 1.3 million people turned on their televisions on a Sunday afternoon in early May to watch that. I was one of them, at least for the first 24 minutes, and then enough's enough. You know what? There was no competition whatsoever, but it was good to watch. And obviously the welcome that Caitlin received when she was back home, that was certainly to be expected. But just your thoughts on the overall day.
I mean, it was pretty incredible. I mean, I think you go back to even when they introduced the starting lineups. I mean, every single Fever starter had at least 110 decibels. I mean, it wasn't just Caitlin. It kind of goes back to what she said back in college, right? Yeah, they might tune in for me, but they learn to support everybody, and they support everybody. I mean, that's why, Kate Martin's an all-time favorite. Gabby Marshall got a standing ovation when she walked in the building.
Wow.
The camera didn't show her. There was no announcement. She just walked in, and everybody recognized it and immediately gave her kind of a hero's welcome back. But, it's just one of those things, man, where I do think the WNBA, the Fever, I think they're going to need to really take a serious look at doing it again in a couple of years. I think it was a success from all angles. And I've said this for the last few years. I think you look at the support that women's basketball has in the state of Iowa, whether it be Iowa State, top 10 in attendance, UNI, Drake with Kay Dinevere, and obviously Iowa. I think Des Moines should put in a bid to be an expansion team for the WNBA. I really do think it would work. I think Wells Fargo would be a really good place for that. But just kind of focus on Caitlin specifically, man, is every single time there's a moment, she just lives up to it. And, I know people want to say, oh, it was a 60-point blowout. But, man, she pulled up from 36 feet, and that was her only shot attempt from that far. So it wasn't like she got 4 or 5 attempts from her spot to do it. She just did it. And, again, to just kind of be so consistent at that level, to continue to live up to the hype and create those iconic moments in an exhibition game, right. By the way, it's just special, man. It really, really was another all-time day in Carver-Hawkeye Arena.
Taking it a step further on the women's basketball program, the momentum that's been created, Emily Rodriguez, they had her coming in on campus for a visit from Central Florida. Kind of that next step for GM Jensen's program, because people see it. You saw pros talking about the environment at Carver-Hawkeye Arena. Got to keep this going on the women's side. How does that continue? And what can you tell us about Rodriguez?
Yeah, I mean, I think she'd be kind of that final piece to the puzzle for next year's team. I think she's a really versatile player. Only shot 33% from three-point range, but fundamentally, her shot mechanic, I think, looks good. I think she could get up to about 35, 36%. But she's a solid rebounder, a very reliable defender, and I think the best basketball is ahead of her. So she is going to be on campus, I believe, Monday, and then she's going to go to Indiana the day after. So I know Jan Jensen is working hard on that one. But you're exactly right. I know, obviously, the game with the Fever was not an Iowa event, but I do think that Jan and company are going to use that kind of leverage to tell recruits, like, look at this. Like, this is the type of environment that Carver-Hawkeye does create. But, if they can land Rodriguez, I think that'd be a great piece for next year. But I've said this on my message board. I've said for the past few months, man, the 2026 class has a chance to really be special for Iowa. And they are competing with the big fish. I mean, they're right in the thick of it for number 1 overall prospect, Kate Harpering, who has offers from everywhere in the world, basically. McKenna Wolitsko, I think Iowa has another realistic chance. I would say at this point, Iowa is in their top 3, and those are 2 of the top 3 prospects in the entire country. And Iowa's working hard on several other 5-stars. So, I think getting LaShondra Barrett, the new assistant coach, is going to be big. I think she's a tremendous recruiter, and obviously Iowa just has the recruiting resources for her to kind of maximize her capabilities as well. So obviously getting Rodriguez on campus is big. I think ideally they want to lock her down before she has a chance to go to Indiana. It'll be interesting to see if they can do that. But you're exactly right. I still think there's a ton of momentum with the program, but they definitely need to lock in some of these top prospects. And I think Iowa fans need to continue to learn how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because you know what happens with 5-stars? Their recruitments drag out and drag out, and you're competing against the big time people. So it'll be kind of fun to see how these next 2 months shake out.
I was of the opinion that the attendance numbers were going to come back down a little bit, not off the face of the cliff by any means, but because last year it was impossible to get a ticket. I thought this year coming up that, you know what, the ticket availability is going to be there. You'll be able to get tickets maybe game day. They're still going to draw over 10,000, but I'm not so sure anymore. I think that the interest is still there. What about ticket sales? And knowing that they're seemingly McCollum is building momentum. What's attendance like for women's basketball? Same as last year or a little bit lower?
I think it's going to be a little bit lower, but I don't think it's going to be by much. I really don't. I just think you look at the way Jan Jensen was received at that Indiana Fever game, by the way. I mean, she spoke to the crowd, asked people to keep coming out. So there was a lot more Iowa-centric stuff for a Fever event than I thought there was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jan Jensen, just kind of her being in Iowa and her connecting with the community and just the iconic moments that have happened over the last few years, right? I mean, even last year, they sold out their season tickets so early. I think Lucy Olson played a big part in that. But you're going to get a senior Hannah Stolke. You're going to get a freshman class that people really connect with. Ava Hayden is going to be there. They have Chit Chat Right. I mean, they're going to have people that I think really connect with them. And also Kylie Fierbach coming back. I think that's a very kind of underrated addition to next year's team as well. So maybe Ben McCollum and the rise of Iowa men's basketball attendance levels out the women's a little bit. But I do think that's an exciting time to be a fan of both programs because, I mean, I know you guys probably want to get to the men's side of things, but I really, really like the way that roster is shaking out. I think there's a lot of potential there. And if the women can get Emily Rodriguez, I mean, I still think they're going to be a 20-plus win team next year at least.
Let's go to that men's side. Still looking in the portal is Ben McCollum's group. One of the names that have been speculated about, I know Trilly Donovan's site had a lot about this. Was it Theus de Ritter? Kid from Belgium, big kid.
Really?
Sounds like
how big?
Like 6'8", but he's 22 years old, thick, strong, good rebounder. Now maybe Virginia is the front runner there. What can you tell us about that and the two guards that they've had on campus the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. I mean, de Ritter's obviously been names been thrown around. And in the wingspan, I mean, that's what's made him such an effective rebounder. I would say that Virginia is the clubhouse leader at that point. And it is kind of interesting to watch Ben McCollum try to get in with the Euro market, right? I think that's kind of an untapped potential there. I mean, obviously now there's a director of scouting. I think Ben McCollum has finalized a deal for a new strength coach. I expect that announcement to be coming out here in the next couple of days. But, you know, it's interesting watching McCollum work because there doesn't seem to be a panic among McCollum, among any of the coaches. Like, they're very patient about who they're trying to get with this team. I know Kiza Giffa is another guy that Iowa had significant traction with. I think things have kind of stalled out, even though there was some early momentum. And I was told by two sources, you know, a week and a half ago that he was going to commit. But I think kind of with the Ritter's emergence and kind of them figuring out the way they want the roster to look, the one thing I'll give McCollum and company respect about, guys, is they're not going to overpay for anybody. They don't care. They believe in their development. They believe that they can go out and get the right pieces for the right price. And I don't think Ben McCollum and company are going to want to get in much of a bidding war. I think when you listen to him talk about the culture he wants to create with team mantra and kind of being a servant first, whether we serve in the community, servant for your teammates, you know, he doesn't want guys that are trying to hold out and getting in bidding wars with schools. I think he's very comfortable cutting ties and going to find the right pieces. And I still think that they need maybe one or two more pieces. I would like for them to add another kind of lengthy stretch five, even if it's a 6'8", 6'9" guy that can get a lot of rebounds. But I also think that they're not panicking. They're not going to overpay for a five that, you know, the market's so slim. I mean, I've been hearing that there have been guys that average 9 points and 7 rebounds. They're getting $1.7 million in the portal. And I mean, that's, I hate to say it, that's kind of pedestrian numbers for big, but that's just the way the market is right now. And I think they would rather use that money to get a guy like Alvaro Figueres, who I think you look at the pick and roll potential, pick and pop potential with him, Bennett Sturts, and you have Brendan Housen on the wing. That's not going to be fun for opposing defense to play against.
No, that's for sure. Is there? I thought I read an article. A Texas A&M kid will re-enter the portal. Miles, maybe his last name. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Duke.
Miles Duke. Okay. Is Iowa in on him?
I think they're doing their homework on him. I still think they're investigating a few other portal pieces.
Gotcha.
I don't know how much traction there's going to be, but I'm not going to say the name specifically, but I'll give you another update, just kind of what the market is right now. I mean, guys, there are people in the portal right now that averaged 4 points a game that believe they were in the wrong system, and their camp wants $1 million.
Jesus.
But that's where we're at right now. And again, I'm not blaming the kids. I'm blaming more so the agents than anything else and the people around them. But I think people are going to, I think it's going to come back down to reality here over the next couple of years, because people are not going to pay for pedestrian production. And I'll tell you, the level of accountability that athletes
Although Trent and I made a living at it.
Think up the joint, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, that is truly something.
Get you out on a football question here, David. Final minute with you. Had an article I saw you just posted at Hawkeye Insider just a little bit ago about what you want to see from the offense. It feels like everybody's bought in here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you diving head first? I mean, you're not dipping your toe in. This offense is going to look different this year?
I got my foot in at this point.
Okay.
Not both. I got one, right? I want to see more backyard football. And I think Tim Lester is going to let that happen. I mean, I think you look at Mark Gronowski. I mean, I'm very curious to see how his shoulder rehab's going, if he can create chemistry with the wide receivers. I like the offensive line. I like the idea of Jazzy Patterson, Kamari Moulton. I like the receiver room. Don't know how many all-conference guys they have, but they have some depth. And again, I think Mark Gronowski is the guy that can make the offense go. I need to see a little bit more out of Asana Strang and the tight ends, but it just feels like it's going to be a little bit different this year. And I know people have heard that before, but they also haven't had a second-year Tim Lester. So I'm kind of in on it right now. I'm not going to lie. We'll see. But I got my foot in right now.
Yeah, I think that's there's a lot of people in that camp, no doubt about it. David Eickholt, thank you for what you do for us. Appreciate it. We will talk to you, and we'll see you down the road. HawkeyeInsider.com. Thank you, David Eickholt.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, good to talk to you, buddy. David Eickholt, we check in on Iowa.
Great stuff as always from David Eickholt. Always appreciate the conversation as we dive a little bit deeper and interesting. A little backyard football, something that was a dirty word with the former offensive coordinator. What's not dirty is this Iowa baseball team playing well, even after losing their first Big Ten series against Washington over the weekend. The opportunity that is in front of this Iowa baseball team this week in Des Moines and next week against Oregon in Iowa City, it is monstrous. We'll talk a little bit about the series and a special event for you Hawkeye fans. We continue your team every day. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Well, the NBA playoffs are in full swing. It has been tremendous. Comebacks, upsets all over the place. Every night has been delivering huge performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and also live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Players showing up for that big moment. How about Anthony Edwards tonight for my Timberwolves as they face off in Game 2 against the Steph Curry-less Warriors? Well, if you think there's a bounce back there, you can bet on it. Live prop bets, mid-game, you can do that after you see how things start up. All there for you, and $200 in bonus bets to add to the excitement if your first $5 bet wins. I'm going to be jumping aboard with the Wolves here in a bounce back spot. You can do the same, or go the opposite way of me. Are you new to FanDuel? It's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bets. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. As we make our way through here, a couple of notes. Iowa baseball getting ready for their series in Des Moines. Exile Brewing Company is going to be having an event leading up into the game from 4 until 6 o'clock on Friday. Going to have a special event happening there at Exile, adjacent to downtown. So if you want to make yourself out there, I might try to stop over as well. We'll see how the afternoon goes and what we got work duty wise, but definitely something that'll be a great time. Get yourself a Swarm beer, a cocktail, get a seltzer they have put together, Exile has with the Swarm, and help support the student athletes that are out there. Speaking of the Diamond, Iowa softball yesterday. Yeesh. Lose to Penn State. And I don't want to say it's over because we don't know how this thing's going to play out. Bad loss to end the year. A postseason L. RPI now sits at number 52 for the softball team. Ugh. You just wanted to get that one last opportunity against a heavyweight against Nebraska in the quarterfinals. That doesn't happen. It shouldn't be an anchor. One loss in a season of 53 games should not be the difference between making the NCAA tournament and missing. And Iowa still got those high-quality wins on the softball diamond. What this group also has gone through, from Coach Gillespie stepping away before the season began, to what happened at the beginning of the season and another coach departing, to have that opportunity, get that chance to play in the NCAA tournament, it would have been incredible. I don't think it's going to happen personally. Looking at the numbers, looking at some past selections for the softball tournament, it doesn't appear that Iowa's going to be in a great chance. But that win against UCLA, that win against Nebraska, those are ones that can go a real long way. Let's hope it happens for the Iowa softball team. Over to the baseball diamond. Mentioned the opportunity for Iowa baseball coming up this weekend against Oregon State. Oregon State currently 6th in the RPI. They are 35-12. I wonder about this, though. So they starting to take on maybe a little bit of water. Remember, they made the decision they were going to go independent in baseball. And this is a program that's been to the College World Series recently that has had high-level success in college baseball. And last weekend, they're out of Hawaii. Before that, they were on the road in Oregon. They got swept. Came back home for a one-off non-conference game Tuesday, the 29th of April. Lost that one. No, they took 3 out of 4 against Hawaii. Still, I'm just left wondering, is this going to be a tired team? What kind of pitching did they use out on the island? There's a lot of travel. And for Iowa, and what they need to do to solidify themselves as a tournament team, Iowa's dropped down now to 67 in RPI. We've talked in the past about the bad losses, the 6 quad 4 losses that they have on their resume. A series win would go a long ways here. It'll be a neutral field, considered a neutral field, though slanted, obviously, Iowa's way in Des Moines. And then they wrap up against Oregon. Take 2 out of 3 this weekend. There's going to be a big, big chance. But what I'm keeping my eye on, Oregon State. Beavers a little bit tired. We'll see coming up this weekend. 6:30 in Game 1. That will be Friday night first pitch. Again, that Exile event happening at Exile Brewing coming up at 4 o'clock on Friday, leading it to the matchup against the Beavers, and a huge opportunity for this Iowa baseball team. We got you covered on that front. We got you covered each and every day. Your team every day. A shout out to you everydayers with us each and every day. If you can, hit subscribe right now if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're on the podcast side, 5-star reviews helps us out a ton and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. We will be back with you tomorrow. Still a whole lot more. We'll continue our previews of Iowa football post-spring as we go through the position groups and talk about some of the impact players that are out there. We'll take a look at the spotlight positions as we make our way through all the position groups, and we will do that again tomorrow. Plus, get set a little bit deeper dive into that Oregon State matchup coming your way against the Beavers. Plus, we got Tom Kaker still to join us a little bit later on this week. Your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network. I got you covered on the Hawkeye front every day. Hey, for your second listen, how about you check out the Portal Show? Brian Smith, he has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.